Hey everybody, welcome to the Mana Leak. I'm John as always, and we are here for the black set review. We're going to take a look at all of the black cards that have been put out in Zendikar. Be aware that I'm recording this before the full set is out. I think there are 2 black cards that we don't have. It's not going to change my ratings, but there will be 2 black cards that you'll find at the end of the set review rather than in their appropriate place. But up first we have Acquisitions Expert. Acquisitions Expert is 1 and a black for a creature human rogue at uncommon. It's a 1/2, and when it ETBs, the opponent reveals a number of cards from their hand equal to the number of creatures in your party. You choose one of those cards, that player discards that card. So it's a 1/2 for 2 that your opponent reveals a card of their choice. Not a random card, they choose the card. And you get to make them discard it. If you have a wizard, cleric, or warrior, maybe they have to reveal 2, 3, or 4. This is like a really bad kite sail freebooter. They don't reveal their hand, they choose what's revealed. It doesn't fly. At least it's discarded rather than being momentarily exiled. I'm not a huge fan of this. If I'm in the rogue deck, I'm probably fine with this being a rogue, but it's like, you know, it's not a rogue I'm excited about. There's better rogues that I can find. It's in like the C range if I really want rogues or something. I think it's in the C range anyways. I think this is a C card. This is a card that you'll play. And if you have better cards, happily cut. C for Acquisitions Expert. Up next is Agadem's Awakening. Agadem's Awakening is X black for a sorcery at Mythic. Return from your graveyard to the battlefield any number of target creature cards that each have a different converted mana cost, X or less. It is also a bolt land, so it's a tapped black land unless you pay 3 life. So this one, again, we've talked about this in the previous videos. I don't know how to grade these because grades I feel fall apart a little bit on these double-faced cards. What I can tell you is it's a very good card. It's a great card because you can play it and it is a tapped swamp. If you desperately need an untapped swamp, and it's not a swamp, I don't care that it doesn't have, you know what I mean. If you need an untapped swamp, you can pay that 3 life, and if it's late in the game and you top deck this, congrats, you didn't flood, you didn't draw a land, you drew this spell that'll get you back, you know, some number of creatures. Like getting back 1 creature, I think I'm pretty happy with this. So what do you get back? You get any number that have different CMC. So like if you pay 3, you can get back a 3-drop, a 2-drop, and a 1-drop. And that's for 6 mana? That's not bad. Who knows if a 1-drop or a 2-drop is going to be that effective late in the game. But this is just great because it helps out in so many different ways, which is why all I can tell you is that these cards are great. They sort of defy traditional A or B or B plus rating. So therefore this is a K9. That's the rating. Up next is Black Bloom Rogue. Black Bloom Rogue is 2 and a black for a creature human rogue at uncommon. It's a 2/3. It's got menace. Black Bloom Rogue gets +3/+0 as long as an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard. I prefer 3/2 menaces for 3. But a 2/3 menace for 3 is fine as well. And if you are in blue-black mill rogues and you can get those 8 cards in, the fact that this is a 5/3 menace is pretty dang good. And it's also a tapped land. It's a tapped black land. You're going to play this as the creature side like 99% of the time, but sometimes you're going to need that 3rd land or 2nd land or 1st land or whatever it happens to be, and you'll play it as a land and be pretty happy with that as well. Again, super versatile, sort of defies the grade. I don't know if you're supposed to rate like just the creature side, in which case it's like a C+ in the rogue deck, and even kind of a C+ in any black deck. But with the backside, it becomes a much more versatile card, but that doesn't make it a B. It makes it a... I'm pulling the numbers from chat, and chat hasn't given me a number for this card. So it's a B98. That's the rating for that card. It's a good card. Take it highly. Play it always. Love the versatility of those dual face cards. Don't undervalue them at all. Up next is Blood Beckoning. Blood Beckoning is a single black mana for a sorcery at common with kicker 3. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. If this spell was kicked, instead return 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. Famously, I'm not a big fan of these cards unless they are cheap and or return multiple creatures and or have something more going on with them. Luckily, I just described this card. It's cheap for 1, it's fine for both. It returns 2 creatures. It's got the versatility. It's got stuff going on. Be aware these spells do get better the better your deck is. If your deck is just a pile of meh creatures, whether you play this or just another meh creature probably isn't that big of a deal. But if you've got a bomb or 2 or 3 that your opponent's going to kill, this can buy back very good cards. So this does vary a little bit based on the power level of your deck, but overall I think this is around like a C level card. It's not a card that I'm going out of my way to get in, but I'll happily play it in most decks, and if I do have a few creatures that I really would love to buy back, it even goes up to a C+. Up next is Bloodchief's Thirst. Bloodchief's Thirst is a single black mana for a sorcery at uncommon, kicker 2 and a black, destroy target creature or planeswalker with converted mana cost 2 or less. If this spell was kicked, instead destroy target creature or planeswalker. No mana restriction. So single black mana for a defeat, I think was kill power 2 or less, or CMC 2 or less, or maybe it was defeat was 2 or less something. But if I pay 2 black, I get sorcery speed, Impale, which I think was sorcery speed anyways. This is just great removal. It's very, very, very solid removal. You're going to play it for 2 black 99% of the time, and sometimes there's a 2-drop that is good and you need dead and you can pay 1 mana for it. This is an A-. No. It's a sorcery speed. It's sorcery speed. I don't know what I traditionally do with sorcery speed. Extremely good removal. I think it's still an A-. This is going to be one of the best cards in most packs that it's in. A- for Bloodchief's Thirst. If it was instant speed, it would go up. Up next is Coveted Prize. Coveted Prize is 4 and a black for a sorcery at rare. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party. Search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. If you have a full party, you may cast a spell with converted mana cost 4 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. I don't like tutors in limited. Do not like tutors in limited. Your decks in most limited formats that aren't cube and such just don't have that much power. You have a bomb. This is a second copy of your bomb. Unless you've already drawn your bomb, in which case it's your second best card. But you're paying too much mana. You're paying a card. I don't like tutors. If this costs 1 mana, I still don't know that I care about it. So I've got this at an F. I never want to play this card. I think you'll win more games of Magic in this draft format if you just never, ever play this card. F for Coveted Prize. Up next is Deadly Alliance. Deadly Alliance is 4 and a black for an instant at common. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. 5 mana instant speed unconditional? Sure. It's expensive, but I played Final Blow. Final Blow was great. This is Final Blow, except sometimes it's the best removal spell you've ever played ever, and it's 1 mana, instant speed, at common. Now, of course, it's very rarely going to be 1 mana. We don't expect full party to be something that you just casually get. But if this even goes to 4 mana, it's great. If it's 3 mana, it's amazing. This is great. This card's awesome. This is an A. This is a straight up A. Yeah, this card's great. It's going to be one of the best cards in the pack. There's some very good black removal in this set. Absolutely love it. Up next is Demon's Disciple. Demon's Disciple is 2 and a black for a creature human cleric at uncommon. It's a 3/1. When Demon's Disciple enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. It's Fleshy Bee. It's your friend and mine, Fleshy Bee. Fleshbag Marauder. Yeah, this card's good. It's a 3/1 for 3 that might have to sacrifice itself and make your opponent sacrifice a card, or you sacrifice your other creature that's not doing anything anymore. It is an edict, which means that your opponent is going to choose their worst creature. You know, they are not going to choose their bomb over their 1/1, but it's still value. It's still very good value and a relatively aggressive body at that. Fleshbag Marauder is a very good card, and this is just Fleshbag Marauder, except it also says Planeswalker, which for us doesn't matter. This is like a B-, I think. I really love Fleshbag Marauder and whatnot. Don't get too high on it. Don't think that you've got a bomb on your hands here, because it is just an edict effect, but B- for Demon's Disciple. Up next is Drana Last Blood Chief. 3 black for a legendary creature vampire cleric at Mythic. She's a 4/4 flyer. Hang with me here for a moment. Whenever Drana the Last Blood Chief attacks, defending player chooses a non-legendary creature card in your graveyard. You return that card to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter. On it, the creature is a vampire in addition to its other types. She's a 4/4 flyer for 5. Cool. That's a playable card right there. When she attacks, regardless of damage, your opponent picks a creature for you to bring back. They're going to pick your worst creature. It's a free creature, and it has a +1/+1 counter on it, so it's better than it ever was before. And if you're black-green, you have probably some payoffs for counters. This card's amazing. This card is absolutely amazing. This is an A+. This might be the first A+ of the set, I think. We've had a lot of A's. I don't know if we've had an A+ yet, but this is an A+. She's fantastic by herself. If she's attacking in and returning like even one creature, she's amazing. She's going to be removal bait for sure, but this is an amazing card. A+. I love this card. It's fantastic. A++++++++. Nissa was an A+. Nissa might have been an A+, yeah. Up next is Drana Silencer. Drana Silencer is 5 and a black for a creature vampire rogue at common. It's a 3/2. When Drana Silencer enters the battlefield, target creature an opponent controls gets -X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures in your party.
Wolf that out.
Not a big fan of this. 6 mana for a 3/2 that naturally gives -1/-1. Don't like it. 6 mana for a 3/2 that gives -2/-2. Don't really like it. 6 mana for a 3/2 that gives -3/-3. All these different ways I'm saying this still starts with 6 mana. I don't want this card. I'm not playing a 6-drop. I'm not playing a 6-drop that does this. It's kind of like Catoblepus, but worse. Much worse. Much worse. Yeah. I hate this card. I think it's in the D range. I don't want to play this card. 6 mana is just not something I'm interested in for something that isn't like busting the game wide open. D for Drana Silencer. Up next is Dreadworm. Dreadworm is 4 and a black for a 5/4 creature worm horror at common. It's got landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, Dreadworm gains indestructible until end of turn. So it's a 5/4 for 5. Those are okay stats. I would prefer 5/5, but whatever. That's a very vanilla creature. When a land enters the battlefield, which, you know, after turn 5, you're not necessarily putting that many in, but hey, if I get basically an abyss turn every other turn for the rest of the game, I'm probably pretty okay with it. It's not a card that I'm super excited about. It's a card that I'm not aggressively looking to include in my deck. I think it's around the C range. I think if you have a spot, you can put it in. The trick here, of course, is that black's not really the landfall deck, so it's not like I'm, you know, doing anything to ensure that I'm getting massive landfall value alongside this, but it is also fine. So yeah, I think this is just a C for Dreadworm. Play it, don't play it, whatever. Up next is Expedition Skulker. Expedition Skulker is 1 and a black for a creature vampire rogue at common. It's a 2/2. Expedition Skulker has Death Touch as long as you control another rogue. It's a 2/2 for 2 with minor upside of potentially having Death Touch if you are somewhat rogue heavy. That's fine. That's fine. Longtime viewers know that I strongly prefer a 1/1 Death Touch for 1, but I'll take a 2/2 for Death Touch for 2. Why not? This is a C+. This is fine. You'll play this in most of your black decks that have rogues in them. If you don't have a lot of rogues, unfortunately 2/2s for 2 have really fallen off lately. So this is filler any way you cut it, but it's between a C+ and a C-, depending on your deck. Up next is Feed the Swarm. Feed the Swarm is 1 and a black for a sorcery at common. Destroy target creature or enchantment an opponent controls. You lose life equal to that permanent's converted mana cost. It's Doomblade, but sorcery speed. yeah, you get to kill creatures. You take life loss. Oh no, I don't care. I'll kill things that need to die, and I'll pay 5 life for it. I've done it before. Executioner's Swing, I want to say, was that a card that I could pay 5 life for? I think it was. Also, you can kill enchantments. People are up in arms about that. Whatever. Yeah, this is removal. It's good removal. It's strong removal. I think we just cut it out of the A range because there are going to be times where you can't afford 5 life, 6 life to kill their super big bomb. But I think this is still B+. I'm still pretty happy with it. B+ for Feed the Swarm. Up next is Ghastly Gloom Hunter. Ghastly Gloom Hunter is 1 and a black for a creature zombie bat at common. It's a 1/1 with kicker 3 and a black. Flying lifelink. If Ghastly Gloom Hunter was kicked, it enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. 1/1 flying lifelink for 2. No. Do not want. Absolutely no interest. I didn't like Healer's Hawk. Yes, it turned out to actually be pretty good in that explicit format because of the way that explicit format, which I hated, worked. But I'm not paying 2 mana for a 1/1 flyer. That said, 4 black for a 3/3 flying lifelink? That's still costly. But that's a much different creature. A creature that I think I'm okay putting in the main deck, one of, if I don't really have many other choices, which is the description of a C-. I think this is a C-. I don't think you really want to play this for 2 mana. Maybe if you have some shenanigans going on, but I mean, if you have shenanigans going on, grades go out the window anyways, right? C- for Ghastly Gloom Hunter. Up next is Ghoul-Draz Mucklord. Ghoul-Draz Mucklord is 2 and a black for a creature crocodile at common. It's a 2/3. When it dies, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. We had a card like this. I don't remember what it was called. It was a centipede of some sort in the last year or so. 2/3 for 3. That's pretty filler. When it dies, you put a counter on something. Cool. That's the black-green mechanic. This is very filler. This is like a C. Put it in your deck. Don't put it in your deck. Whatever. It'll be based on the quality of other playables that you have. You'll play it in any black deck that you're hurting for playables, and in black-green it even goes up a tinch more, but you can probably find better cards. Up next is Hagra Constrictor. Hagra Constrictor is 2 and a black for a creature snake at common. It's a 0/0, but it does ETB with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. Each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has menace. So a 2/2 for 3 is a little bit overcosted, but it has menace. 2/2 for 3, again, we just talked about this. I prefer 3/2s for 3 with menace, but a 2/2 for 3 with menace will get some work, and your other creatures that happen to have counters on them will get menace as well. So this is a C outside of the counters deck, and if you are in the counters deck, it's a C+. It's not that much better. C depending on your deck. Up next is Hagra Mauling. Hagra Mauling is 2 black for an instant at rare. This spell costs 1 less to cast. If an opponent controls no basic lands, destroy target creature. It's also a tapped black source. You're never playing this as a land. If you're playing this as a land, it means you are really mana screwed. This is instant speed kill a creature. This is the 4th destroy target creature spell we've seen, I think. I want to say. This card's great. It's premium removal. It's the premiumest of premiumist removals. It's a strong A. It is the first pick in literally every pack it's in because it's the rare. A. I feel really sorry if you have to play this as a land at some point, but maybe you do. A for Hagra Mauling. Up next is Highborn Vampire. Highborn Vampire is 3 and a black for a creature vampire warrior at common. It's a 4/3. That's it. This is, I need warriors. I need a creature. I need filler. It's a C-. You cut it as much as possible, but if you have to, you can play it. Up next is Inscription of Ruin. Inscription of Ruin is 2 and a black for a sorcery at rare. Choose 1. If this spell was kicked, choose any number instead. Target opponent discards 2 cards. Return target creature with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Destroy target creature with converted mana cost 3 or less. So it's Mind Rot for 3 mana. It's return probably a completely ineffectual creature for 3 mana, or it's Vanquish the Weak at sorcery speed for 3 mana. If we pay 7 for black, we get to Mind Rot, return a creature, and destroy 3. This might be format dependent. If getting to 7 mana is just something we do, I'm happy to cast this for 7. We may not get full value, but we may not have a 2-drop in the graveyard. We may not have a creature that we can kill. Our opponent may have an empty hand. The versatility on this probably makes it fine. I think this might actually be kind of like the blue one, where it's just like a B-. It's not a first pickable card, but if you're in the color, there's no reason not to play it. Sorcery speed again hurts it. Just like the blue one, I think sorcery speed hurts this. I would rather... We don't often get sorcery speed Mind Rot, but sorcery speed kill a 3-drop? Yeah, I think this is a B- for Inscription of Ruin. It's a card that... It's flexible, so you'll always play it. And that's the issue that we've had with so many cards in this set, is it's flexible. What does that mean for the grade? What do grades even mean? It's flexible. You'll play it, but I don't think you pick it super highly. So B- for me for Inscription of Ruin. Up next is Lithoform Blight. Lithoform Blight is 1 and a black for an enchantment aura at uncommon. Enchant land. When Lithoform Blight enters the battlefield, draw a card. Enchanted land loses all land types and abilities and has tap, add colorless, and tap, pay 1 life, add 1 mana of any color. So it replaces itself. That's cool. So this is color fixing, right? It's color fixing at the loss of losing the fact that that land could tap for a color. Like if you're not splashing, you don't play this card. You just don't play this card if you're splashing. If you're not splashing. If you're splashing, I still don't know if you play it. I still think you probably just play 3 planes or whatever in your black-green deck, splashing a white bomb. I don't think you need fixing this bad. Yeah, it's also land destruction in constructed formats, but that doesn't really matter here. I think this is like a D-. Realistically, I think it's just an F. I don't think I ever want to play this card. Maybe when I'm getting a real weird, like 3-color black-based deck, I'll play it, but I think that's about it. Up next is Malachur Blood Priest. Malachur Blood Priest is 1 and a black for a creature vampire cleric at common. It's a 2/1. When Malachur Blood Priest enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of creatures in your party. So it's a piker that drains 1 and then perhaps drains 2. I mean, it's cute that you can get multiples of these because it's common. But I think it's just like a C. A C, and if you're in the life gain deck, it probably bounces up a little bit to C+. Yeah, let's go C++ on Malachur Blood Priest. Depends on your deck a little bit. Up next is Malachur Rebirth. Malachur Rebirth is a single black mana for an instant at uncommon. Choose target creature. You lose 2 life. Until end of turn, that creature gains. When this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. It's also a tapped black land. Like I've said all the time, we have to keep going over this. This is a very good card that you should always play because it is a land when you need it. And if it's in your hand late in the game and you don't need a land, well, you have this card that maybe saves your creature. So a grade doesn't really make any sense here. Like, pick it highly, don't undervalue it, play it 100% of the time. In the game that you play, this card is not going to be an A or a B. This card's going to be like a C-. But that doesn't inform where you should pick it and play it. These cards, the ratings don't get really decided here. So this is an N6. Up next is Marauding Blight Priest. Marauding Blight Priest is 2 and a black for a creature, Vampire Cleric at common. It's a 3/2. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. What a bad payoff for the black-white deck. So it's a 3/2 for 3. I hit my opponent, or I hit their creatures for 10 lifelink. Wait, no, I always get that wrong. Each instance of lifelink is a separate instance, right? Even though you gain it all at once and there's no actual trigger. I think that's how it works, and I always get confused by that. So they lose 1 singular life each time you gain life. I mean, you'll play it. You'll play it. If you're the black-white cleric life gain deck, you'll play it, and it'll be like a C+ in that deck. If you're not, this drops down to like a C, C-. You'll cut it if you can. You'll play it where you need to be. It's between C+ and C-. Up next is Mind Carver. Mind Carver is a single black mana for an artifact equipment at uncommon. When Mind Carver enters the battlefield, attach it to target creature you control. Equipped creature gets +1/+0. It gets +3/+1 instead. Instead, as long as an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, equipped for 2 and a black. Single black mana for +1/+0 aura. Not interested. If I'm in blue-black Rogue Mill, +3/+1 for 1 mana. It's pretty good. And then if they kill that creature, bounce that creature, whatever, I can re-equip it. This is the rare aura minus flying, of course, from M21. If you're in blue-black Rogues, this card's like a C+. And if you're not, you just don't play it. C+, D+. Well, C+, D-, depends on where you are. Up next is Mind Drain. Mind Drain is 2 and a black for a sorcery at common. Target opponent discards 2 cards, mills a card, and loses 1 life. You gain 1 life. So, I mean, get absolutely wrecked Mind Rot. Throw out every copy of Mind Rot you have. It's a little bit obsolete now. It's still not good. You're still not looking to play this if you can help it. D+, like milling 1 is not worth it. Losing a life to gain a life is not worth it. Mind Rot is rarely ever worth it. So D+. Yeah, play it more in Sealed, but Sealed doesn't exist right now. So D+ for Mind Drain. Up next is Nighthawk Scavenger. Nighthawk Scavenger is 1 black for a creature vampire rogue at rare. It's a 1+ star 3. It's been a while since we've seen that. Flying Death Touch lifelink. Nighthawk Scavenger's power is equal to 1 plus the number of card types among cards in your opponent's graveyard. So as a 1/3 Flying Death Touch lifelink for 3, this is great. It's probably going to be a 2/3. Almost always, in which case, congrats, we have Vampire Nighthawk. Sometimes it's going to be a 3/3, 4/3, 5/3. This card's amazing. This card is is it bomb territory? Is Vampire Nighthawk bomb territory, or is it just a B++++++? I think this might just be a B++++++. You're first picking it in every pack that it's in. It's an amazing card. It's going to win some games. It's going to be obnoxious to deal with. Your opponent has to, I guess it's not an A because your opponent has to deal with it, but they probably have many turns to deal with it. So B+++++. Up next is Niumana Skitter Sneak. Niumana Skitter Sneak is 3 and a black for a creature human rogue at common. It's a 3/4. As long as an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, Niumana Skitter Sneak gets +1/+0 and has Menace. 3/4 for 4. I'm sorry, this is a human rogue? I guess there's a human rogue back there in the background. So 3/4 for 4. And if we got there with the mill, it's a 4/4 Menace for 4. Sure, it's a C+. It probably passes the vanilla test plus Menace if you're in the right deck, and if you're not, it just barely misses the vanilla test. It's a C+. You'll play it in decks. It's fine. Demonic Pooper, thanks for that bit there. Up next is Namana Sky Dancer. Namana Sky Dancer is 2 and a black for a creature human rogue at common. It's a 2/1. Flash Flyer. When Namana Sky Dancer enters the battlefield, target opponent mills 2 cards. 3 mana, 2/1 Flash Flyer. I feel like I've played that card. I feel like I've definitely played that card. It's fine. It will surprise kill some things. It'll surprise kill some 3/2 flyers and such. And it randomly mills 2. It's a rogue. It's in for the blue-black rogue mill deck. I think it's a C+. I think you're happy to play this card in most black decks. And if you are in the blue-black mill rogue deck, you're going to be even happier with it. I think it's a C+ for Namana Sky Dancer. Up next is Null Priest of Oblivion. Null Priest of Oblivion is 1 and a black for a creature vampire cleric at rare. It's a 2/1 with kicker, 3 and a black, menace, lifelink. When Null Priest of Oblivion enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. 2 mana, 2/1 menace, lifelink. I'll play it. It's a little bit filler because it does die to being, briefly glanced at. But 4 black, 2/1 menace, lifelink, reanimate to the battlefield. I like that. I like that quite a bit. I think this is pretty strong. 6 mana. I don't know if I'm going B+ on it, but the versatility probably gets it there, doesn't it? Versatility. This set is versatility the set. I think I'm on B. B for Null Priest of Oblivion. That versatility really helps it out. It helps lower the downside that it's not always a 6-drop that requires you to get the value out of the graveyard, because it could just be a 2-drop that's a 2/1 menace lifelinker. B for Null Priest of Oblivion. Up next is Oblivion's Hunger. Oblivion's Hunger is 1 and a black for an instant at common. Target creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn. Draw a card if that creature has a +1/+1 counter on it. I never really liked the black combat tricks. They never quite add the thing that I need, and here I need power boost is what I need, and I don't get a power boost. This has the insurance policy of Ranger's Guile, sort of, although it's indestructible, not hexproof. There's variances there that could happen. But these are just cards that never find their way into my black decks. I treat them as like a D+. I really actively try to not play cards like this if I can help it. So yeah, I don't really want them in the main deck. I'm not super looking to play this card, so D+ for Oblivion's Hunger. Up next is Pelakka Predation. Pelakka Predation is 2 and a black for a sorcery at uncommon. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a card from it with converted mana cost 3 or greater. That player discards that card. It's also a tapped swamp. Yeah, this one's also totally fine. You probably treat this one as a land, because I think you're probably going to play it as a land early in the game as much as you can. And then later in the game, if you happen to cast Pelakka Predation, cool. If you have other lands and you do play this early, cool. This has versatility here. It's a relatively high pick. You probably always play it, and therefore it gets a T31 rating. For those new wondering what's going on with that, I don't know how to give these a grade in the traditional grade sense, because they're high picks that you cannot undervalue. You should play them 100% of the time, but they're not exactly A's or B's or C's. They're weird cards. Up next is Scion of the Swarm. Scion of the Swarm is 3 black for a creature vampire cleric at uncommon. It's a 3/3 flyer. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Scion of the Swarm. This is fantastic. This is a payoff that you're really looking for in the black-white clerics deck. It's a cleric. It's life gain payoff. It's very solid. Get you some counters on this. Fly on in and murder them. It is a straight up B. Maybe even B+ if you are in the black-white life gain deck. If you're not, it's still a 3/3 flyer for 5. You could still play it. You wouldn't be excited, but you could still play it. So this is a straight up B+ in the right deck. And even in the wrong deck, I think it's still like a C. Maybe even C+ if you happen to have any incidental life gain kicking around. Up next is Scourge of the Skyclaves. Scourge of the Skyclaves is 1 and a black for a creature demon at Mythic. It's a star with kicker 4 and a black. When you cast this spell, if it was kicked, each player loses half their life rounded up. Scourge of the Skyclaves' power and toughness are each equal to 20 minus the highest life total among players. So on turn 2, this is a 0/0 almost always. So this is not a 2-drop. This is like a 5-drop or a 6-drop. And I think I hate this card. I think it's actually garbage. I think it's actually garbage in limited. This card is good when both you and your opponent have lost a bunch of life. If you haven't lost a bunch of life, you can't cast this card, right? If you're at 20, you can't cast this card. Now, luckily, it is a star, so it does change over time. But, like, this card is anti-win more. If you're winning, this card is actually awful, which is rare for a card. If you kick it, and again, you're ahead, you're losing more life. And what do we get out of it? We get a creature that may be big, but doesn't have trample, doesn't have flying, doesn't have any sort of evasion on it whatsoever. I think this card's pretty mediocre. I keep coming back to the fact that it can change size. Like, if you can get it down, like, if you can get it to a 2-2, you and your opponent are at 18. Or you're at 2 and your opponent's at 18 or whatever. Then at least it's not dead, and it won't die unless you gain life. And luckily, black's not a life gain color in this format. And if it does get to be enormous, it's the Abyss, which is fine. Right? It's fine, but it's going to be chump blocked forever. So I think this card's really around, like, I don't really know where I really want to give this card an F. I'm trying not to, because y'all are going to get mad if I give this card an F. I don't like playing cards that could literally be uncastable in my hand. And this card could literally be uncastable in my hand. Because I'm at 20 life, or my opponent's at 20 life. My opponent's at 20 life. I've gotten hit a whole bunch. I'm in trouble. I top deck this card. I can't cast it because my opponent's winning. And it very powerfully does not get me back in. F. I did it. I think realistically it's like a C, perhaps because you have the land spells, you might have like an extra slot, so maybe it's free-ish to put this in, and you can cast it when it's small and hope that it grows, and potentially have that upside of it being large and just being an abyss that your opponent can't answer. We'll see. Up next is Shadow Stinger. Shadow Stinger is 2 and a black for a creature vampire rogue at uncommon. It's a 1/4. Tap another untapped rogue you control. Shadow Stinger gains death touch until end of turn. Whenever Shadow Stinger deals combat damage to a player, that player mills 3 cards. I'm not stoked on a 1/4 for 3. Tapping another rogue to give it death touch is a really cool little defensive trick here. How am I dealing combat damage with this, though, to mill my opponent? I mean, if I do, cool. But I don't know that it's getting through necessarily. I think the real benefit here comes from that threat of activation of Death Touch. But of course, that requires you to not be attacking with your other rogues. I feel like this card fights against itself a little bit here, or at least fights against its archetype. I think it's probably still a fine include as like a C+ in the blue-black rogue deck. If you're not in the blue-black rogue deck, I think this falls down quite a bit to like the C- range. But let's go C+ if you're in the blue-black rogue deck. Up next is Shadow's Verdict. Shadow's Verdict is 3 black for a sorcery. At rare, exile all creatures and planeswalkers with converted mana cost 3 or less from the battlefield, and all creature and planeswalker cards with converted mana cost 3 or less from all graveyards. I'm never a big fan of Anger of the Gods or Bile Blight or any of these kill all the little things in limited. They obviously have significant value in constructed. And paying 5 mana, I'm used to paying like 3 mana for kill all the little things. It does exile, which is kind of nice. unfortunately, it works explicitly against the blue-black mill deck because you want there to be 8 cards in their graveyard. Yeah, I think this is heavily for constructed. In limited, I think this is probably like a C. You can play it. You need to play around it. You need to maybe hold back some of your little things. But yeah, C for Shadow's Verdict. I think it's more constructed. Up next is Skyclave Shade. Skyclave Shade is 1 and a black for a creature Shade at rare. It's a 3/1. It's got Kicker for 2 and a black. It can't block. If Skyclave Shade was kicked, it enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. It's got landfall whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control. If Skyclave Shade is in your graveyard and it's your turn, you may cast it from your graveyard this turn. So 3/1 for 2 that can't block, whatever. I'll play it. I'll attack with it. It'll die. It'll trade probably, but I'll attack, and that's fine. If I have the mana for it, I could make it a 5/3 that can't block. Sure, 5/3s don't want to block. 5/3s want to attack. And I can recast it from my graveyard when I play a land later on. All of that makes this, I think, a pretty decent aggressive card. I think it's around like the B range. B-ish range, maybe B- range, just because it doesn't get you back into the game. You do have to be at least at parity and maybe even ahead for this to be great. I think being behind this does not help you at all. So yeah, just a B for Skyclave Shade. There's a lot that I hate about this card. It does not have the Shade ability. It does not have a pump. That's always been like the definition of a Shade. It doesn't fly, despite the fact that it is upside down on a thing. Feels like it should fly. The showcase art even more looks like it's flying. But it's a good card. B for Skyclave Shade. Up next is Skyclave Shadowcat. Skyclave Shadowcat is 3 and a black for a creature cat horror at uncommon. It's a 3/3. Pay 1 and a black, sacrifice another creature, put a +1/+1 counter on Skyclave Shadowcat. Whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it dies, draw a card. This reminds me of Dreadmalkin. I did not like Dreadmalkin. I think Dreadmalkin was bad. This is a 3/3 for 4. I have to sack creatures to put a counter on it. It's not a free sacrifice outlet. It costs 2. Whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it dies, draw a card. That's a pretty big bonus, especially if you're in the black-green counter deck. The second phrase here probably saves this from Dreadmalkin's fate. Dreadmalkin was awful. This card is probably just totally fine. I don't know if I'm going to go up to a B- on it. I haven't seen anything that makes me think I'm going to have a whole bunch of creatures that I'm super happy about sacrificing. You know, I'd have to be able to recur them somehow, and I'm not necessarily sure what creatures I could recur. Yeah, I think the second ability just makes it so much more valuable, though. I think that allows us to keep this as a strong C+. I don't think I'm willing to go up to B- for it. But yeah, strong C+. And again, I think you do want to be in the black-green counters deck for this. I don't think you want to be in something else and play this card. Up next is Soul Shatter. Soul Shatter is 2 and a black for an instant. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker with the highest converted mana cost among creatures and planeswalkers they control. It's an edict effect, but it's instant speed, and it kills the biggest thing your opponent doesn't get to probably choose. This is really good. This, I think, is an A-. It's an edict effect, but it's an edict effect that's probably going to kill the thing you want dead. There are going to be cases where it won't. There are going to be cases where the 3-drop is better because it has 7 pieces of equipment on it. That's going to be pretty rare. I think this card's great, especially at instant speed. A- for Soul Shatter. I like it a lot. Up next is Subtle Strike. Subtle Strike is 1 and a black for an instant at common. Choose one or both. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Subtle Strike's great. It's a great card. We've played with this before in Khans of Tarkir or Dragons of Tarkir or one of them. It's a very good card. -1/+1 is a 2-power toughness change in combat, and you get that counter to stick around. Feels really good. Subtle Strike is it's a really good card. I've talked it up a lot. I don't think it's a B, like B-. I think it's kind of in like the Feat of Resistance range, where it's a very good card, and it's probably going to be one of the better black commons. But let me do a quick check on how many creatures have toughness of 1 in this set. 32. Jeez. 32 creatures have toughness 1. Okay. Yeah. This is a B. This is a B. B for Subtle Strike. This card's great. Love it. It's very good. It looks like it's probably very well suited for this format. There's a lot of O1s that get +2/+2 on landfall. Like this kills step links and whatnot. We don't have step links, but we have a red step links. Yeah, this card seems great. A B. Up next is Taberax Hope's Demise. Taberax Hope's Demise is 2 and black for a legendary creature demon cleric at rare. It's a 2/2 flyer. Taberax Hope's Demise has lifelink as long as it has 5 or more counters on it. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Taberax. If that creature was a cleric, you may draw a card. If you do, lose 1 life. That's a lot of if-then statements. 2/2 flyer for 3 is fine. That's a Windrake. And then every time something else dies, you get to throw a counter on this is pretty dang good. If you happen to be in a cleric heavy deck, getting to draw a card and lose a life is also pretty dang good. This is at a bare minimum a B- if you have no clerics. And I think it's probably just a B+ if you do have clerics. A-, A range I think is a bit too high because this is a 2/2 flyer that requires a bunch of other stuff to happen. But I think I'm pretty happy with B- if you're not clerics, B+ if you are. Up next is Thwart the Grave with really nice art that's not Seb McKinnon. Interesting. Thwart the Grave is 4 black for a sorcery at uncommon. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party. Return target creature card and up to 1 target cleric, rogue, warrior, or wizard creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is so expensive. Like, I just talked about how I don't like these effects unless they're cheap or return multiple things or etc. This is 6 mana to return maybe 2 creatures. Probably 2 creatures, but maybe only 1. And it's probably not going to cost 6 mana. It probably costs 5. Still don't like it. 4. Oh, it's straight to battlefield. Straight to battlefield. I misread. Straight to battlefield. So it's Rise Again, but perhaps cheaper. Yeah, no. It's a good thing I do look at chat a little bit. This is Rise Again. This is a reanimation spell. It's still going to be a little bit expensive, like Rise Again was. You're going to need to be raising things up that are valuable. But if you raise up a really good creature and also get like a 2-drop cleric with it or a 2-drop rogue or something, that's going to be pretty dang good as well. So you know what? Good thing I checked that because I think we can pump this up to like a B-. I'm still a little bit iffy about these cards just because they are expensive. They do require things to have gone a little bit right with you having something in the graveyard that you want to bring back, like the whale or whatnot. So like Rise Again in M21 wasn't necessarily the best and was kind of tricky to work with. I think this will be similar, but I think as long as the set is slow, this could have some work here. And boy, I wish we had Archfiend's Vessel because then this card would have been great. Oh, people get so mad about Archfiend's Vessel. I love it. Next up is Zof Consumption. Don't know what Zof is. Zof Consumption is 4 black for a sorcery at uncommon. Each opponent loses 4 life and you gain 4 life. It's also a black swamp. This one also stretches the, am I really going to play it? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. You put this in your land slot and you say, this is a swamp. This is a swamp. I'm going to play it as a swamp. And then sometimes it's going to be turn 12. Your opponent's at 4. You've got 6 mana. And you go, oh, kill you. So again, this is one of those cards where it's just like you're playing it 100% of the time. You're picking it pretty highly. This card right here, how do I point? This card right here sucks. This card right here sucks. It's a tapped swamp. But this card, not that one, this one, is good. You pick it highly. It doesn't have a grade in the natural application of grades. It's not an A, it's not a B, it's not a C, it's not a D, it's not an F, but it's a card that you should pick very highly. You should play it 100% of the time. It is a D100. Rounding out the black set review, we're going to go back to a couple of cards that weren't available during the Twitch stream. First up, we have Blood Price, which is 3 and a black for a sorcery at common. Look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 2 of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. You lose 2 life. So this is like Dark Bargain, except you get to look at 4 instead of 3, but it's not instant speed, and not being instant speed kills this card for me. I don't foresee myself ever casting this, ever, because I don't want to pay 4 mana at sorcery speed. That's almost guaranteed to be my turn, and I don't spend my turn drawing a couple of cards and losing some life. That's not a turn of magic for me. So this is an F. I literally never want to play it, and I never will. There's no way that this makes it into a deck. Our final card for today is Vanquish the Weak. Vanquish the Weak is 2 and a black for an instant at common that 100% at some point in this set's design was Fatal Push. Look at that art. This is not the art for Vanquish the Weak. This is the art for Fatal Push. Vanquish the Weak is destroy target creature with power 3 or less. This card's very, very, very good. It's not unconditional removal. It's obviously not going to be killing most bombs. It can kill the White Angel. It can kill a Drana that has been somehow shrunk, I suppose. It can actually kill some bombs, but mostly it's going to kill something pretty early. And you have to kill things early. You have to get the way clear. You have to protect yourself. You have to kill things, and Vanquish the Weak kills things. We'll see how good this is. This basically ranges between being like a B, probably just a B, up to like an A minus depending on the set. This set has counter shenanigans and stuff like that going around, so I suspect this is probably going to fall into like the B plus range. You're going to pick it pretty highly. There's going to be some packs where this might be the first pick. You'll be pretty sad, but it could be the first pick in some packs. But you'll play literally every copy of this you can get your hands on. So this is like a B plus for Vanquish the Weak. That's going to wrap it up for the black cards. Let me know what cards you're excited about. If I don't get to play Drana at least several times, I have failed at Battle for Zendikar. I need to open Drana and play with that card. It looks so powerful and fun. Let me know what cards you agree with, disagree with, are excited for, etc. in the comments down below. You can always find me over at Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook. You can find me at patreon.com/shamanalink if you want to help the channel out that way. Like, share, subscribe, of course, is the easiest and cheapest way. But if you do have questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, see you all next time.